always had a knack for baking ever since I was younger, even going as far back as having an easy bake oven as a child. Baking hasn't always been so easy though, and everything hasn't always turned out so pretty either. I've always learned many things over the course of my at-home baking hobby, and most of these lessons came from all the worst mistakes. Today, I'm going to tell you about my worst baking mistake to date and how it's taught me many lessons that I've used outside of baking and in my everyday life. There's a cookbook that's been passed around in my family for decades. All of these recipes came from my great-grandmother. The recipes were all curated and handwritten by her, each uniquely sentimental in their own way. And since there was only one copy in existence to live on in her memory, that meant the whole entirety of the family wanted it. The cookbook contained many different recipes, ranged from cookie recipes to homemade tortillas, and even traditional Mexican dishes that ran in the family. Of course, the sweet dessert section piqued my interest and inspired me to try and bake my own. All of my great-grandmother's children took turns with the cookbook, so when it was my own grandma's turn to have it, I only was able to get a few quick glimpses of it before it was gone to the next home for the next few years. Despite my very little knowledge of baking at the time, I was determined to recreate the recipes. I decided to try to make her cake batter cookies, but since I had seldom seen her cookbook for barely minutes at a time, it didn't turn out too well. When I pulled out the flat burnt cookies from the oven, there were no similarities to the fluffy and soft cookies that my great-grandma had made for me as a kid, and I was disappointed to say the least. Although those burnt cookies ended up inedible and in the trash, they taught me about patience. I learned that patience is what makes situations so successful. Rushing to make the desserts only allowed me to skip steps and mess up the whole process. I was so eager to try and recreate my great-grandma's recipe that I didn't get the chance to thoroughly examine and understand the recipe. I also learned that it's okay to ask for help. I didn't want to ask my own grandma to help me bake them because even though she had way more baking experience than I did at the time, I wanted to do everything completely by myself. Once my grandma saw my destroyed cookies, she offered to help me make a second batch. I agreed, and it turned into a great bonding experience for the both of us. The most valuable lessons come from the worst mistakes, as I discussed in my effort at baking. Baking has been a long journey that has had its fair share of twists and turns, but patience has stuck with me through all of it and has helped me stray away from being too prideful to ask for help. And thanks to my great-grandma's cookbook that continued to fuel all of my baking adventures, and my grandma for guiding me through all of them.